One from Georgia, Mr. Carter, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank all of you for being here. I would certainly be remiss if I didn't comment on one of the comments that was just made about the mergers that have taken place in the banking industry here in recent years. Let's keep in mind that a lot of those mergers weren't necessarily wanted. A lot of them were fire sales of banks selling to bigger banks before they went out of business. You know, full disclosure here, first of all, I've served on community bank boards. Full disclosure, I'm a small businessman. If it weren't for a community bank, I would not have been able to start my small business. I went into business November 21st of 1988, and it was because a small community bank was willing to extend me credit to open up my business. So I am a big community bank fan. And I will tell you, Mr. Williams, I couldn't agree with you more. When I was serving on the bank board, previously to becoming a member of Congress 18 months ago, the only new hires we were making were compliance officers. That was all we could do. Was every time we made some money, we'd hire a new compliance officer. That was the only thing we could do. Mr. Greenberg, I want to ask you, do you know what bank deserts are? What are bank deserts? Can you just briefly tell me?
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with.
Well, I would refer. It was a term we kind of used in Georgia. You're aware of what's happened in Georgia.
Yes, sir.
I believe Georgia leads the nation in the number of banks that have closed since all this started. You know, and listen, I've listened to all of you during the day, and I know you all agree that community banks are important, and they're necessary. We've got to have them. But bank deserts exist in both rural and urban areas, particularly in rural areas. In the state of Georgia, we have 159 counties. We've got 48 counties that don't have a locally chartered bank. That would be referred to as a bank desert. Nationwide, there are 654 bank deserts in rural communities and 351 in urban areas where we don't have a locally chartered bank. Mr. Chairman Greenberg, can you tell me, it sounds like what you have articulated here today, that you're concerned, that the FDIC is concerned about these bank deserts and the need for community banks. But I'm still not clear when we talk about the convenience and needs of the community, what you mean by that.
Well, first of all, Congressman, you're correct. I think we're very concerned about it. Community banks play a critical role that large institutions really cannot fill. For exactly the point that you were making, community banks do relationship lending, particularly with small business, that is very hands-on, and that is not the kind of business the large institutions are interested in. So they really fill a critical. But let me just come to your. So your question is, if you could just come.
So you acknowledge that. Tell me what you're doing about it.
Oh, look. We want to do everything we can to.
I know there's a difference in want and doing. Tell me what you're doing about it.
Well, so we can't change the interest rate environment. That's not under our authority. What we can try to do that's within our authority is at least to try to make the application process that groups interested in forming a bank as user-friendly and reduce the cost and, to the extent we can, reduce the reliance on what can be expensive consultants for a group to put together a new financial institution. I think that's a contribution we can make, and we are looking at ways to do that.
Okay, I've got very limited time, and I've got to. Let me ask you, Chairman Greenberg, how many bank charters were approved last year? How many new bank charters were approved last year?
Just one, wasn't it? Yeah, I believe just one, Congressman.
One?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you say one?
Yes. No, at the end of my testimony, we provide a chart listing all the new charters. And what we've really had is an unprecedented experience in the period since the financial crisis. We really have not seen, we've seen only a handful of new charters and only a handful of applications because we have an economic environment that's extraordinarily challenging to start a new institution. I think that's the point that was made earlier.
But how are you going to help? I mean, you know, we need to help these people.
I agree, but we can't.
We've got 48 out of 159 counties in the state of Georgia that do not have a locally chartered bank. If small community banks go away, small business goes away.
I couldn't agree more, Congressman, but we don't. Community banks in particular.
But what I'm hearing, and I'm sorry, but what I'm hearing is that is the problem. There's no transparency, that the process is difficult, it's hard to navigate.
If you look at our website, our application and the requirements are there for everyone to see, which I think is the bottom line, and we do work actively with any groups. We are prepared, and we'll look at our policy, at our procedures for deposit insurance applications and try to make them as user-friendly as we can.
Okay, well, my time has expired, but I got to tell you, small business is what made America.
I agree.
And this is killing us. We have got to have it, and we need help. We need you to make it easier. Now, we need to make sure these de novo banks, we need to make sure these community banks survive. If they don't survive, small business is not going to survive. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. We'll now recognize the gentlewoman from New York, Ms. Maloney, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much.